Let's talk about finding every note on the guitar. So if you know anything about music, the musical alphabet goes from A to G, and then it starts all over again, and it goes on forever, right? So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it starts again on A. So in order to find any note on the guitar, and really any instrument, you have to remember just a couple of things, a couple of rules, right? So on the guitar, between every letter is 2 frets. That's called a whole step, right? But it's just 2 frets. So between G and A, 2 frets. Between A and B, 2 frets, right? The only exceptions to the rule are between E and F and between B and C, it's only 1 fret apart. Okay, so for instance, here's B, here's C right next door, right? Here's E, here's F right next to it, right? So if you can remember that, there's 2 frets between every letter, except B and C and E and F. You can find every note on the guitar as long as you know the starting point of every string. So if you remember, we have E, we have A, D, G, B, and E. So those are your starting points. This is E. So remember what I said, right next door is F, right? That was one of the exceptions to the rule. And then we're gonna find, after F, of course, comes G. Now remember, between F and G is 2 frets, right? So here's F, here's G, right? So if this is G, the next note after G in the musical alphabet is A, right? So from G to A, 2 frets. From A to B, 2 frets. And from B to C, well, that's one of the exceptions. So from B to C is only 1 fret. So there it is, here's B, here's C. Okay, now we're up to C, so here's C, 2 frets away from that is D, and then here's D, and 2 frets away from that is E. If you noticed, we've skipped some frets, and those are the black keys on the piano. It's called sharps and flats. So let's talk about that for a second. Sharps raise a note 1 fret for us. Flat does the opposite, it lowers a note 1 fret. So this is raising, going this way. This is flat, right? Going back, lowering is flat, right? So we have E, we have F, we have G, right? We've talked about that. In between F and G is F sharp or G flat. Same exact note, right? So here's E, here's F, here's G, but in between F sharp or G flat, right? So here's G, right? If you remember, we went that far. Here's G to A, but in between there, we have a black key. G sharp or A flat, right? Here's A, here's B, but in between there is A sharp or B flat. Now here's where you can get a little messed up. Here's B, but here's C, right? There's no black key in between B and C. Remember the rule, right? So between B and C, there's no sharp or flat. Here's C and here's D, and in between there is C sharp or D flat. Same exact note, right? Here's D, and here's E again, right? We've reached the double dots, the 12th fret. That's where the guitar starts again. So here's E, here's D, and in between there is D sharp or E flat. So now you know the rules, right? Between every letter, 2 frets except B and C and E and F. And then between those, you know that there are sharps and flats. You can use that to find any note on the guitar as long as you know the starting point of every string. So let's say we're gonna find all the notes on the G string, right? So here we are on the G string. And we know from G to A, 2 frets, right? Those are part of our rules. So here's G, boom, boom, there's 2 frets, there's A. Let's say you wanted to continue. Here's A, okay, well we know to B is 2 frets, right? So there's B. Let's find notes on the second string, the B string, right? So here's B. Imagine it's a little spot back here. Okay, well B to C, that's one of those special ones, right? So we're gonna go from B to C is only 1 fret, right? Let's see if we can figure out what the next note is, right? We know from C to D is 2 frets, so what is that note? Well, that's C sharp, right? Or D flat. So now you can find any note on the guitar.